Hey, thanks so much for making the time and tuning in to Jay Fuller Interviews. Jay Fuller Interviews on Twitter and Instagram. Jay Fuller Interviews is the YouTube channel that we'd love to have you subscribe, as well as a Facebook group. You can certainly join on the Facebook group, Jay Fuller Interviews. And we are making it into a podcast. The Backfire podcast is going to be on multiple platforms. So thank you for tuning in, because I believe as we hear people's stories, it will make our story much better, less ignorant, and more impactful if we would just listen and learn from one another. And joining me now is Rollie Smith. Rollie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thanks again for making the time. I just want to do a quick shout out to the Kenny Anderson Showcase and Ian Cunningham for putting me in touch with you. When you were first invited to be a part of the Kenny Anderson Showcase, what did you know about Kenny Anderson and the showcase to begin with?
Well, ironically, Kenny Anderson was one of my favorite point guards growing up. So I was very familiar with Kenny Anderson. When Ian came to me about it, the first showcase I was going to be a part of, but I couldn't at the last minute. But I ended up, still being one of the silent sponsors. I, brought my water up and had it for all the kids and the coaches. But when I heard about the showcase, I was excited because, as a basketball trainer, and a former basketball player, being recruited and being able to go to school for free is a dream for a lot of kids. So, and it was for me too. So I was like, whatever I can do to help out, I'm with it.
Hey, Rollie, so when did you graduate high school?
I graduated Villa Angela St. Joseph's High School in 1999. So it's
99.
It's been 21 years. Well, 20 years. It'll be 21 years.
Yeah, man, I just turned 45, and everything does start to either slow down or speed up. Depends how you look at it. But
yeah.
For you had opportunity to play, at various levels. You actually played over in France. When you got that opportunity, what did that look like? We'll come back to your college days and all of that, but having that opportunity to play, not in the NBA, which is every kid's dream, but still to play professionally, that's pretty remarkable. Could you just share with our listeners what that experience was like for you?
It was great. Being able to travel the world was always a goal for me, and to be able to play basketball and get paid pretty much to travel and play basketball, that was one of my dreams. So it was great. Playing overseas is a different experience, because when you go to play professionally overseas as a, I guess, foreigner, you're called on to kind of carry the team and make sure the team wins, and you're almost like an instant celebrity because they know why you're there. So, that was a surreal experience, just being in that position, almost feeling like I'm an NBA player going to play, in a different country.
So talk to me a little bit with France, and excuse my ignorance, I don't know a ton about being in France, but I don't think there's a lot of black basketball players born and bred that are raised there. So obviously you kind of stood out and they knew why you were there. Was that hard for you? I just think in the tone of what our nation's going through is just such a crazy time. Did that help, or what are your thoughts about standing out playing basketball? How is that different than what we face now?
Well, my experience over there, it was either they loved you and they accepted you and they wanted to, kind of know more about you, and or it was they just didn't speak to you. I didn't experience any, racism or prejudice, not directly while I was there. So I was fortunate in that sense.
And so I just want to go to your hashtag. If you go to your Instagram site, it has Push Through Athletics. You do a lot of skills training, as you mentioned, at all levels. And I love some of these pictures of the kids. Why do you want to be a skills trainer? Is it important to pay it forward, or do you just love the game that much, or is it kind of a mashup of both?
It's a mashup of both. When my career slowed down and I got older, I got into refereeing, and then I got into coaching. I started out coaching middle school, then I did some AAU, and once I got into AAU, after my first season of AAU, the players and the moms and the parents were, asking, "Do you do any, personal training? Because we love what how you're teaching the kids and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, not really, but I can." And so I started out training in backyards and going to houses, and because I really was very green to basketball training, and I just fell in love with it. I love being able to break down the game. I love being able to, take an aspect of the game and to be able to teach it to the point to where even the mom and dad or whoever brought the kid can understand it while watching, and understand what I'm teaching the kids, from as an outsider. So for me, once I kind of felt that, I fell more in love with it. And the way I look at it is I've been successful in basketball as a player. I'm getting older. There's no point in me keeping all this knowledge to myself.
Oh, that's so good. Hey, you mentioned bringing up your water to that Kenny Anderson showcase, and I did find this fascinating as well. I'm just going to bring up your website here. Talk to me about, how did this get started with the beverages, supplements, weight loss? Stark is a journey. How did this all begin?
Well, a lot of my journey is it coincides with basketball. The guys that founded Stark were guys that I met working for the Philadelphia 76ers. I used to work their summer camps.
Yeah.
And I met these guys, and we just, became pretty good friends. Well, we started off as competitors, just playing against each other while we were working the camp. And, kind of gained a mutual respect. And because of that, we became, pretty good friends. And, that was back in 2003. And, they stumbled upon Stark about 4 years ago. And, and they called me because they know what type of person I am. And they're like, "Look, we got this product. We got this company. You're in Cleveland. We're in Harrisburg. We're trying to get it out. We're trying to, get this product, these great products out to people. And you're in Cleveland. So why not, And so I went out to Harrisburg and I tried the products out for myself. And I was like, oh my God. Everything that the website says is true. It started with joint support pills. Everything is all natural. So I started taking the pills because, like I said, I've been playing basketball for a long time. So I'm, aches and pains, and I'm getting older. So, I was taking a leave and, having to do the rub on the knee and all these, things in order to play. And I started taking the pills, and I felt way better than I had ever felt. So I started taking the pills. I had probably about 35 at the time, and my body felt 25. So, as we started coming out with more products, I just fell more in love with the company. And, it started, like I said, started with the joint support pills. And then we came out with the energy drink. And then we came out with the water. And when we came out with the water, I was, kind of apprehensive about it because I'm thinking, like most people, like, water's water. And then I drank it. And then my mind got changed very quickly. And I realized the taste was so much better than any water I've ever had. And once again, I fell in love with it. And now if I don't have my Stark water, I won't drink water. That's how much I love it. and then I did my due diligence. I taste tested it, with, Fiji and, Deer Park and, all the other waters that are out, Essentia, all these, alkaline waters. I'm taste testing. I'm like, okay, what, is there a real difference? And there definitely is. I can feel the difference. I can taste the difference. Drinking it just makes me feel good. So I drink it.
That's really cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool just to hear how you got started, but how you've processed it, made it your own as well. Hey, I just want to go all the way back to when you were a kid. Was basketball your first love, or did you play other sports growing up?
No, it was basketball. I of course played other sports because I was outside. I'm a kid, back when I grew up, when I was younger, that's what we did. We go outside and we play. So, I can remember my first layup. To this day, right in my backyard, I remember making a layup and then running into the garage, like not into it, but inside the garage because the garage door was open. And I realized my passion for it at a young age too, because I would want to play basketball all day. And a lot of my friends, they wouldn't. So they would, we would start out playing basketball, then we would play some football, then maybe some baseball. And then I'm like, okay, we got to get back to basketball. And they're like, well, I'm done playing for the day. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I'm going home and I'm going to play basketball by myself. So, for me, basketball it's literally ball is life. So.
Now, did you have any siblings growing up, or who was your best friend that you would always play with? Did you have somebody that you remember just really pushing you hard?
No, I'm an only child. A lot of my friends that I keep up with to this day, we actually started a podcast ourselves. It's called Nights at a Round Table. But they lived probably 20-minute, 15-minute car ride away from me. So I really didn't have too many close friends that, that I would hang out with every day and that would push me. It was just me, watching the games on TV, and then during the commercial breaks going outside trying to emulate the moves. And then my dad was very instrumental in it. He played. He wasn't that good, but he played a lot. So he would get up in the mornings every Saturday and Sunday morning and go to the park. And I remember, he would leave me because he's like, I'm leaving at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm a kid. I'm like, I don't want to get up that early, on the weekend. So after him leaving me a couple of times, and he'll come home and he's like, oh yeah, I won 7-8 games today. And I'm like, yeah, right. So after a while, I'm like, well, I'm going so I can find out if you really won these games. And then, I would go, and I obviously was too little to play, but as I got older and got better, they would throw me in, let me play a little bit. And then, that's kind of where it started. So
that's pretty cool. And I just want to highlight the Push Through Athletics. You can find that on the Instagram feed as well as your Twitter feed, Push Through Athletics. And just what you said, I've talked to a couple of trainers, and they said that so much responsibility falls on the student or the player on how much time do they want to put in alone by themselves and really to get better at, their craft or different aspects of the game. I've also heard that during COVID-19, this pandemic, there's a fear of isolation, that it's playing mind games on people. And I think solitude is good, isolation is bad.
Mm-hmm.
What is that balance for you where you can really be self-motivated by yourself to go improve your game versus some of those students or other players that might get depressed, and instead of getting fresh air, being active, they just become a recluse and just stay to themselves inside, or just stick to video games or something of that nature?
Well, a lot of the message that I give to my kids, even before COVID, is, well, are you where you want to be as a player? And if you're not, then you need to be working towards that. So, for me, I've lived through a lot of the experiences that they're going to go through. And I was, I guess, unfortunately fortunate to do it alone.
Yeah.
So, so for me, being an only child, I lived COVID, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I grew up in these circumstances, just because of, you know, I was only child. So for me, it was, I'll go outside, I'm playing one-on-one against myself.
Yeah.
And the way I got better was, okay, well, if I can make a move and imagine myself guarding that move, if I beat myself, then nobody else is going to be able to beat me because they don't know what I'm doing.
No, it's so good. And your success paid off. I mean, right here, Clarion Sports Hall of Fame, class of this year. What did that mean to you to be named to the Hall of Fame?
It was, is probably one of the greatest accomplishments I've ever had as a basketball player.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and for me, like I worked so hard to get good at basketball. So to be recognized for that hard work is one of the greatest feelings ever. You know, it's a huge accomplishment. Um, it's funny because I would get on my former assistant coach about it. You know, once I became eligible, I was eligible after I think 10 years or something like that.
Sure.
And so every year I'm like, you know, Coach Al, what's going on? You know, and he's just, you know, messing around with me. And then when he finally called me, I happened to be in the car on the bus,
Hmm.
you know, on my way to a game because I coach at my alma mater, my high school. I'm one of the assistant coaches, and I was on the bus, and he called me and said, "You're in,"
Wow.
and you know, and it almost brought me to tears, you know, just on the bus because here I am coaching at my alma mater where a lot of, you know, my success began, and to find out, you know, that I'm in the Hall of Fame it was great. So
Yeah. Well, hey, congratulations on that.
thank
And
you, thank
Ian
you.
Cunningham also said that you participated in the TBT tournament. Can you just share about that experience?
Uh, another wow moment for me. Um, you know, this was year 2 of the tournament, and I lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. So when I was down there, I hooked up with these guys, and we would go play in these tournaments, and we would win every tournament. We Vegas, there was a big tournament in Vegas that we would win every year. You know, tournaments all over Atlanta, we would win money tournaments, and so when the TBT came along, um, they contacted me. They're like, "Look, we're getting in a TBT. Can you come down to Atlanta, you know, and play?" I said, "Of course." So I flew down to Atlanta. I hadn't seen those guys in probably 3 or 4 years, and it was just like, you know, we picked up right where we left off. So we won. We won the Atlanta region, um, and then we made it to the Sweet 16 of the TBT. We were the only team that was in it that did not have a former NBA player or any
Wow.
big name, anything. So we're just a bunch of guys that nobody knew. And, you know, we made it to the Sweet 16, and it was a great moment for me because this is probably 2 years or a year or so after I started training.
Yeah.
So, you know, happened to play that Sweet 16 game was on ESPN2. And I had just turned 35.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was my birthday, July 18th. We played the weekend after that. So here I am, just turning 35. Never ever been on ESPN for basketball or anything, and here I am on ESPN. And on top of that, I had a microphone on, so they mic'd me for the game. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so, you know, here I am in this surreal moment, you know, where I'm on ESPN2. I got family, friends, you know, all the players that I coach, high school, college teammates, everybody watching. And I remember we were down by 2, I believe, and I hit 2 back-to-back 3-pointers to put us up with about 2 or 3 minutes left.
Wow.
And the commentator, um, you know, ended up mentioning that. And he's like, you know, here we are playing in TBT, and Rollie Smith from Cleveland, Ohio, Philadelphia St. Joseph High School hits 2 of the biggest 3-pointers, and he just gets back on defense. All you kids should be watching this and see how he didn't like make a big deal about hitting the shots. And I'm like, wow, that's great, because that's the same thing I say to the kids that I train and coach. So that was a great moment. Sad part was we lost by 8 to the eventual champions. So, I still got a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, because I feel like, okay, if we'd have won that game, then we probably would have won too, and I would have had $1 million.
Yeah.
Or a split of the $1 million. So, but all in all, it was a great moment. Like I said, I never thought at 35 that I would be playing on ESPN2.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, Rollie. It's a cool story as well. What position do you play?
I guess guard at this point in the game. There's no really real position. But I grew up playing point guard, and then I transitioned to shooting guard in high school, and then back to point guard in college, and then back to shooting guard by the time I graduated, and then back to point guard as I played professionally.
Now, with the TBT this year, and then, of course, the NBA playoffs, and as they restarted and playing in a bubble, how would you have done if you had to stay in a bubble for your games, specifically for that TBT tournament?
Well, I think for the players, it's a little easier, because we all grew up playing AAU basketball. Yep. So, every weekend you're going to a different city, or going to, the same gym for 3 days in a row playing multiple games. So, I think I would have been okay. Probably would have went a little stir crazy after a couple of weeks, but at the end of the day, you're playing basketball. So for me, if you put me in the gym, I'll stay in the gym for a month. I don't care.
Rollie, talk to me a little bit about the NBA playoffs. Are you a LeBron fan, or are you just a fan of basketball? I know my brother, he would rather go out and play basketball than sit and watch basketball. What type of basketball fan are you? What are your thoughts on the NBA playoffs?
My stance on being a fan has changed. Once I started training, I looked at the game different.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the game as a fan, looking for the oohs and ahs, but then I'm also watching the game as a trainer, and I'm saying, okay, well, I see why that move worked, or I see why that move didn't work. I see why they got to the basket. I see why they got open, all those things. So I'm seeing all that stuff and subconsciously looking for it while being a regular fan. When it comes to LeBron, yes, I'm a fan because he can do it all. I grew up Michael Jordan, so I have my reservations about LeBron because of Jordan. But so does almost everybody else in my era. So.
Hey, Rollie, when we talk about basketball, I've always heard from good coaches that it's more than a piece of leather filled with air. It's what you can learn from a piece of leather filled with air, and those just life skills. How do you incorporate those into how you teach? Do you kind of sit down with your players, with the students, and say, this is what you need to look for in life, or do you just tie it in with the training? How does that conversation go?
I tie it in with the training. So a lot of the drills, a lot of the things that we're doing, sports helps you with life. So, there's when I'm teaching things, I try to make the game as simple as possible. And, in order to do that, you almost have to tie in some life lessons. For example, I would teach kids to take less dribbles to try to score. And I always give the analogy of, okay, if you can get to the basket in 1 or 2 dribbles, and get your 2 points, why not do that? And I say, well, okay, here's an example. I'm the teacher and we're at school and you have homework. Your homework is worth 5 points, no matter what. Right. So you can do 1 worksheet worth 5 points, or you can do 5 worksheets, but you're still only going to get 5 points. Yeah. Which are you going to take? And every time they say, I'm going to do 1 worksheet. So, so when I'm teaching, I'll say, well, do you want to take 5 dribbles to get 2 points, or do you want to take 1 dribble to get 2 points? So I'm always giving those life lessons. And like I said, I feel like it's easier for the kids to remember stuff like that.
Yeah. That's really good. So Couple questions for you regarding specifically training. I'm an assistant to the assistant basketball coach, so that's how it kind of falls. But one thing is teaching defense, and specifically man-to-man, person-to-person defense. So much does go to footwork, but some or a lot goes about heart and how much do you want it, and do you embrace the pain and take pride in getting that stop? How do you teach or encourage kids the importance of playing defense when it really doesn't seem as fun as scoring a bucket with only 1 or 2 dribbles?
Well, I look at guys like, your Tristan Thompsons, your Dellavedovas, your Patrick Beverleys, these guys who probably wouldn't have made it into the NBA.
Yeah.
Without having that defensive mentality, or being able to stand out on defense. So, and then for me as a coach, there's always going to be a spot on the team for somebody who can play defense. So, I'm always giving that message, and a lot of what I teach, like I said, I try to make it make sense, both physically and mentally. So there are certain positions that you can put your body in that's going to almost activate your mind to want to play defense. So I always try to give them those little nuggets to help remind them, as far as how important defense is and how to make it fun. I mean, to me, basketball is one of the few places that it's kind of okay to be a bully.
Yeah.
If you can play defense and not let the offensive player go where they want to go, well, that's you being a bully.
Yeah.
So a lot of times like I said, I will give that message to the players, like, look, be a bully. Don't let them go anywhere.
Right.
Slide your feet. If they want to go somewhere, you get in front of them and you stop them. You almost force them to give up.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. Another question that I have that I try to ask every basketball trainer, because I'm trying to figure out how to do it. How do you teach vision? I see some players, it comes so naturally. Other kids, they are so mechanical. They run the play, and unless the play says throw a no-look pass to this backdoor cutter, they're never going to see it. How do you coach vision?
Well, are you talking about just as a ball handler or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay. Well, so I usually start with the ball handler, because I feel like if you can pick it up as a ball handler, then when you're not handling the ball, it'll be kind of easier to look for those things because you don't have to dribble. So what I try to teach a higher dribble. A lot of people try to stress, you want to dribble the ball, pound the ball fast, pound the ball hard. Well, to me, I feel like if you're dribbling the ball and you're focusing on dribbling the ball, then you can't focus on anything else.
Yeah.
So if there's more time between dribbling, then there's more time to look and see the floor and see everything else. So I teach a higher dribble, and that kind of helps. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have them dribble, and I'll say, well, how many times can you survey the floor while in between the bounce? So one bounce, survey, one bounce, survey, one bounce. You know what I mean? So that'll kind of help them kind of open their minds up to see the floor a little bit better. And then once you're off the ball, you don't have, like I said, you don't have the ball. So it'll be easier to like see everything else. So
yeah, Rollie, that's probably the best explanation I've heard. How I've shared with people is the only way that I've taught it is to videotape games and to pause it frequently and to say, hey, you need to be aware of the natural motion on a basketball court. But teaching especially a young player to slow the game down so they can see, that's an excellent answer. So thank you for that. I'll be saying it was my idea when we come to coaching this year.
That's okay.
Hey, Rollie Smith, Start Cleveland on Instagram. We have a couple questions, then we'll get you out. And thanks again for making the time. But I understand that Clark Kellogg went to the high school that you went to. Is that correct?
Yes.
What was it like?
We have a couple of names that you might know of. Mark Kellogg being one, of course. Desmond Howard,
Well,
London Fletcher, uh, Mike and Bob Golick, Golick and Golick.
oh wow.
Yeah, so we have quite a few.
And now they know your name, Rollie Smith, inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's going to be for Clarion University. So again, congratulations on that. You can find Rollie on Twitter. I am the Start Guy, and on Instagram, Start Cleveland, as I just mentioned. And I just want to bring up this page once more. I do find it fascinating with the beverages, supplements. StarkCleveland.StarkNoLimits.com. Make sure you check that out. StarkCleveland.StarkNoLimits.com. And when we go back to the Kenny Anderson showcase, I know for me, hearing Kenny's story was interesting, to say the least, when I watched the documentary on Amazon Prime. When you see a player that had such success, but as he admits, had his own failures and difficult times, how does that motivate you to not give up on younger players, but also to hold yourself in a place where you have high character and integrity?
Well, like I said, for me, it goes back to playing. I didn't make it to where Kenny made it, but I'm pretty sure we've had some similar experiences.
Yeah.
Just as most basketball players do. I mean, it's going to be a bumpy road. It's going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have your highs and lows. But what is your ultimate goal? Is your goal to make it to the NBA? So, you keep striving until you get there. If
Right.
that window happens to pass or close, then what else can you do if you love basketball? There are so many different avenues that you can go in. And like I said, I've experienced almost all of them. I ended up I tried out for a couple NBA teams, didn't make it. So I ended up going overseas. As my basketball career slowed down, I wanted to stay around it. So I got into coaching. Then I got into refereeing because I wanted to see it from a different viewpoint. And as I got older and I still play in my men's leagues, I wanted to find out what I can get away with. So I became a ref to kind of learn all the rules so I can kind of use them to my advantage. But then, transitioning into basketball trainer. So now I have, all of these different viewpoints of the game that, I feel like I can give away. And that could be the same journey for somebody else too. You might not make it to play Division I. I played Division II. There's still a way to make it. I didn't make it to the NBA, so there's still a way to make it and still play. I played overseas. If you don't happen to make it, there's still a way to affect the game, and you can become a coach, you can become a trainer, you can become a ref. So, going through those experiences, and I'm sure that's probably some of the same thought process Kenny had as he went through his highs and lows. Can I still, if I still have an opportunity, then I'm going to keep pushing for it. And now that the opportunity has passed or, has taken its course, what else can I do? So he got into coaching. And, he's a very, very passionate guy. You can still feel the aura of how good he was, just being around him now. So that was, like I said, Kenny was one of my favorite players growing up. So to be able to participate in the showcase and just be around him and even to talk basketball with him and to see him head nods and we think the same way and blah, blah. So for me, like, that's great. I'm like, oh my God, Kenny Anderson, who I grew up kind of idolizing, we think the same way. So.
He was so quick, man. He was so quick, and that lefty, just so much fun to watch. Rollie Smith, we'll get you out two questions. One's a two-part question. The first is, if you were to play in a fictional movie, would you want to play the hero or the villain?
I would, if I had to choose. Well, obviously you're making me, so I would say the hero. There's just something about being able to save the day. You know, like I said, a lot of that. And for me, playing basketball like that, I've been that. So I've hit game winners and had the game winning assist, or you know, as a coach, drew up the play, or you know what I mean. So that feeling is just a great feeling. And then I don't like losing, so being a villain would be tough for me.
See, that's a great way to put it. For me, as you know, I think that I'm a pastor, so I always say if it's a fictional movie, I want to play the villain, because that way I can let the dark side come out a little bit. Maybe like a Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow, so it's a lovable villain. Hey, before I ask the final question, what's the name of your podcast again?
It's called Knights of the Round Table.
Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, Knights with a K.
I will make sure I link that to this.
Yeah, because so how that came about really quickly was I met 6 of my best friends. Well, there's 6 of us. We all came together in the 3rd grade, and we've been inseparable since.
Wow.
We kind of dispersed to 3 different high schools, and then obviously went to college, different places, but we never grew apart. And while we were at our elementary school, which is now closed, it was our elementary school was called Our Lady of Peace. You know, small Catholic school, and we all, you know, played basketball together. And the mascot or team name was called the Blue Knights. So hence the name Knights of the Round Table.
Very good, very good. And I'll definitely make sure I link that on the Facebook group, Jay Fuller Interviews, as well as on Twitter as well. Hey, so the last question, I stole this from Hernando Planos. I don't know if you know Hernando, good basketball coach. He's done a lot of different sports choreography, worked with Adam Sandler, Common, a couple other things. So at the end of his podcast, Be Contagious, he asks, if or when the feature film is made about your life, who do you want to play you in that feature film about your life? I always say The Rock. Not that Dwayne Johnson looks anything like me, but if I could look like him, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Man, I honestly do not know. That is I might have to like get back to you on that one. You know, that's good. That's something I've never really thought about. You know what? For me, like I said, ball is life. So if I could make him younger, I would say I think it's Dwayne Martin or Dwayne Campbell. If the guy who played in Above the Rim.
Oh, okay, sure. All right, for sure. Hey, so the second part to this question that usually gets me in trouble, and so I just say it as a joke. That's what at least I tell my wife. Who plays your love interest in this feature film about your life? And as you think, I tell people that I would have Halle Berry playing the love interest to Dwayne Johnson for the movie about my life. So I don't know if it'd be any good, but I'd certainly watch that movie.
You know what? I would probably go the same way. I mean, I grew up just like everybody did in love with Halle Berry. So if we're making them younger to play us, then yes, it would be Halle Berry.
Hey, Rollie, thanks so much for making the time. This was fun. We'll definitely get you back on, and good luck as you continue with push through athletics and with the Stark Water, man. I want to get more information about that offline and talk to you as well. So thanks again for making the time. We'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And again, that's Rollie Smith joining us. You can find more information, Jay Fuller Interviews, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Jay Fuller Interviews. We'll be back later. We have Jeff Perlman coming on, talking about his new book, 3 Ring Circus, and much more coming up. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jay Fuller Interviews, and soon to be a podcast. We'll be rebroadcasting and airing all of these great interviews coming up. So make sure you subscribe and check it out when those are released. Thanks again. We'll talk to you all later.